Troy Trojans, Gerad Parker on Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers, join today, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, so Wednesday is the day off from the men's side of the Sunbelt Conference tournament, and happened to get a little bit lucky. We got Gerad Parker, new Troy Trojans head football coach. We actually started more in the middle. Why Troy? And then you have to live up to those expectations. Talk to him about the quarterback position, of course, and as a former tight ends coach, throwing it to the tight end, of course. Let's get right to it. He is the head coach, the new head coach of the Troy Trojans football team. Here is Gerad Parker on Locked On Sunbelt. Dave Schultz back on Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. We're going to take a little break from the Sunbelt Conference tournament and turn our eyes to football. One of the newer coaches in the Sunbelt is the new head man at Troy, is Gerad Parker. Coach, thanks very much for hopping on, and how are you?
Thanks very much for having me. You know what? We're great. It's beautiful here in Troy today, and we're finishing up a week before we head to spring break finally.
Okay, so a little bit different than Del McGee, who just got his job about 10 days ago, trying to put everything together while spring practice was actually going on. You were one of the first ones to get hired. I guess let's start in the middle. Why Troy?
Well, I've been asked that question, and it's still a great question. I'll say this. I never, of all the jobs I've had, and so grateful to have them, there's certainly one thing I always told my wife, told family, and always want to be going as this went. I wanted the privilege and honor of being a head coach, but I wanted to do it at a place that I knew could still win and win championships. And so, to be quite honest and candid, when this job came open and I felt like I had the opportunity, I was very interested in the job because I knew Troy was a championship place. It had championship culture already, and I knew that Troy and the community matched how I was raised and how me and my wife kind of grew up through athletics and through a community. I knew what Troy was about in community as well. So those two things certainly perked our interest in a hurry and made me very excited about the job.
Well, that's good and bad because the last guy ruins it for everybody trying to build a program, because the last guy didn't win one championship. He won 2 championships, and he was there for 2 years. I know it's all different with the portal and NIL now, but he set a high standard, and I'm, just because he's gone and a lot of the talent, left with him due to running out of being able to play eligibility, the expectations are still going to be that Troy is going to contend in the West.
Sure. It very aware. Thanks for the reminder too. That'll help me sleep tonight. It is. I mean, there's certainly a true thing to be said about following such great success, and that's something that we certainly wake up in the morning thinking about, to know that's the expectation. But again, taking a job like this, I would much rather take a job with high expectations and to follow winning from a guy like John Summerall and the job he did here with his staff. You would rather do that than follow a losing culture. I'm certainly aware of the challenges it's going to take to follow such great success. And the fastest way to trying to do so is just pouring ourselves into this program, into our players, and getting to work, because anything else is just taking us away from the energy to do so.
We're talking to Gerad Parker, the new head football coach at Troy. All right, so let's back it up from the beginning. So Bob Chesney, right, another new head coach at JMU, he went the small college route. I mean, really small college route, and actually had to have different jobs in the offseason, and he did it for a long time. You went the more traditional route, moving up through, assistant head coaching, but you did start out in high school. And did you go right from playing college football right to high school coaching? When did you know you wanted to be a coach?
Well, I'll say this, and I know we're on a time limit, but I will say that I cut a deal with my dad when I fell in love with sports, and my first one was basketball, and I wanted to go to a bunch of these basketball camps when I was 12 years old. And so Dad said, that's great, but if you're going to go to these camps, I'll pay for half and you pay for the other half. Oh. And so some of that was cutting grass, and some of it was teaching ball handling routines and stuff to the young kids in my neighborhood. So I started coaching and learned how to teach ball handling and raise money for myself when I was 12 and 13.
Wow.
So to be honest with you, that started a little bit of the process. I didn't know what I wanted to coach, how and when, or what that would look like through college. I just knew I wanted to coach. And it kind of took over and took a path of itself under Rich Brooks, who offered me a graduate assistant job after done playing. And then me and my wife got married, and I got worried about money and went straight back to high school and took 2 great jobs to go home and close back to home and start the process. And then it kind of took off from there.
All right, so you're a great person to ask is how have you seen the process change? Because it has taken a minute to get to this point. We're talking over 20 years since you played. How have you seen the process change about trying to move up? Because you kind of did it step by step by step.
Yeah, I would say that I am biased of how I had to do it, and many others before me had to do it, because I think that the steps that were taken allowed you to do things in an order of appreciation too. There's also all kinds of ways of getting where we want to go. So to each his own on how we all get there. But I loved my path and our path together as a family, because again, I got to do things in an order of appreciation, meaning to take care of some jobs that people don't want to necessarily do when you start in high school and 1AA football, where you help paint the fields, you help plan for our meals on the road, you help plan and understand how to break down a transcript to make sure what a guy's GPA is going to be, things that you necessarily don't have to do later in your career, but it made me a better coach early. And so that process of growing through every job I've had since 2005 has really molded me, hopefully, into becoming the head coach I dream of being.
All right, so that's a good segue to this is that sometimes when you go from a Power 5 to a Group of 5, they're not quite sure what that's all about. And you've spent time at West Virginia and at a premier university, despite my thoughts about it. Notre Dame, it's tough to get to a better university academically and sports-wise than that. And so you're not going to have nearly the help that you had at those places that you're going to have at Troy. Troy's a great job, but obviously it's 2 different levels of ball. So you kind of know that you may have to still pick up the slack even as the head coach.
Amen.
You understand that?
Absolutely. Fully understand it. And again, I think thankful for the places and other places I've coached have had unbelievable resources and unlimited resources in some ways, and then some where we had to find it the way you're saying. So I think knowing what that feels like, also being raised that way to make sure you're blue collar and go earn it, has allowed me to have perspectives. So we're very aware of it, and we know we got to get, and we can't waste resources. We've got to get the most out of everybody that we've hired on this staff. We can't waste any. There's nobody that can be hired to not know what to do or get the best out of each person. And the same thing with how we acquire our talent and the people around us in the program. So very aware, and I'm hoping that we major in being extremely efficient because of it.
We're talking to Gerad Parker, new head football coach for the Troy Trojans. All right, so I spent my first part of my career was in minor league baseball, trying to work my way up as a broadcaster. But along the way, a friend of mine, he actually came up with kind of an outline on he wanted to be a general manager, and he did. So this is what our steps are when I get to be named GM, or when he became GM. Did you have that along the lines? And I presume it had to change over the last few years.
Sure. I think that you have to, it's the tough balance. And you know this, there's a tough balance between being where your feet are and what job you have, and then
Sure.
certainly having ambition and being aware and taking steps to be ready for your next one. And so I hope to believe that that's what I tried to do. But over the years, especially the last 10 to 12 years, there's been thoughts of becoming a head coach. I feel like that's what I've been called to do on this earth. And so over the years, especially as it's when I've kept notes in my iPhone, I've kept logs, I've kept depth charts of people I would love and dream to hire. I've kept things of culture and our pillars and all these things in my phone and had it ready to go. I wanted it to be ready if I got a chance to take over a program where if somebody asked me, hey, this is what this is going to be, I wanted to be able to quickly answer them. This is exactly how our program will run.
Yeah, I don't think making an outline or a plan to become a head coach takes away from what you're doing. You just see this worked where we were. This could work where we're going to be. This may not work where we're going to be, right? You got to adjust on the situation. I don't think that would take away. That's just a little bit, like you said, you put it in your phone, you write it down on the bus ride back or the plane ride back, And all of a sudden, over 20 years, now you have an outline to show the head guy of where you want to be. Right. Okay, let's take a timeout. We'll come back, continue our conversation with new Troy head football coach Gerad Parker about when he likes to name a starting quarterback and how he adjusts his system to the system that's already been in place and the players that remain there and will play for Troy in 2024. Let me tell you about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's get back to the conversation with new Troy Trojans head football coach Gerad Parker about when he likes to name the starting quarterback and how he fits his system to the guys that remain with the program. You want to be. All right, we're talking to Gerad Parker, new head football coach of the Troy Trojans on Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, let's talk about the 2024 Troy Trojans, the two-time defending Sunbelt champions, but a lot of turnover. I won't be the first one to ask you this. I probably won't be the last one to ask you this. But since you won't answer it the way I want, I'll ask you a different way. I'll ask you a different way. Instead of asking you who the starting quarterback is going to be, I'll ask you when you like it. Doesn't matter when I find out or the media finds out or Josh Boutwell finds out. It matters, when do you like to have that decision made? Do you like to have it, coming out of spring, going into the fall camp, a couple weeks beforehand? When do you like to be set? So not only is that person ready, but the team rallies around that person as well.
Sure. Well, you're on it. I mean, we're not ready. That's not ready for a name anyway. But I will say this. I will be very open and honest and candid. The best time to know is when you already know. Sure. And I've learned that through the years. So that's an honest answer. You would already want to know when you have a competition the way we will have a competition and let our guys be and compete. I certainly think that the quicker the better, because then your team understands who your quarterback leader is. We have other leaders and great leaders already that have been pegged and done so. But when you can know who your quarterback is and let him go ahead and start taking all the ones reps, so to speak, it certainly helps him and helps everybody. We got to do our due diligence to make sure it's a great competition and it's the right way to name one. But when one wins the job, we have to give him that job and let him take it.
Do you think that becomes obvious to the team even before you decide or at least make a decision?
Yes, I think you have to give it time to where it is obvious. In those moments in my career where it hadn't been, then that's a scary thing for everyone, right? So, yes. But if it is in fact one of those things that is obvious, then we want it to be, because then everybody knows, and that's when your quarterback's won over the locker room.
Yeah, that's when the coaches look at each other and say, "Did you get any sleep last night?" Because that spring practice did not go nearly as well as we were hoping it would.
That's exactly right.
We're talking with Gerad Parker, a new head football coach of the Troy Trojans. All right, so again, a lot of turnover from Troy, eligibility issues, some transfer portal guys. So it's a little bit different than it used to be, where it may take 2 or 3 recruiting classes to get your guys in there. But at the same time, you still have some guys that were there. And so how do you adjust from the system that they were in to your system with maybe – it still fits the system that they were in? How do you adjust your system before, in 2 or 3 years, if you're still there, then you can implement it. Then it's all your guys who have learned your system. We saw last year a couple of times systems did not work and they went back to another system, not necessarily at Troy, but maybe other places. And that seemed to work. How do you adjust what you want to do to what you have? Because it's sometimes that doesn't mesh, trying to do the whole circle and square thing.
Sure. Well, you're exactly right. That is the magic, though. I think the quicker me and our staff and everybody in our program that has a fingerprint on it has got to figure out what that is. What do we do best? and do those schemes currently right now match it? That's what we got to find out in these 15 spring practices. We go in with an identity on defense of hoping what we can be and wanting to be, and then you adjust with people and personnel. Same thing on offense. Here's what we hope to be. Here's what we plan to be. We'll adjust based off of what we can do and what it appears our people can do. So that you have to measure. I would hope to think and believe, Dave, that we can measure that and do it faster than having to deal with maybe negative results to change. I hope we change it beforehand, but that's easier said than done. And you're going to talk about upwards of mid-40s as far as new scholarship players in this program for this year coming up. So virtually over half of our scholarship football players are going to be, over half will be new. So we've got to do a really good job of building who we are with our old players mixing in with the players we've acquired. And, oh, by the way, the new 28 members of our coaching staff and all administration to make sure, too, because nobody's going to wait for us to make sure we get acclimated quickly to the Sun Belt.
It feels like there's got to be a lot of male bonding. I mean, even the coaches got to know each other.
Amen. That's part of it, too, that maybe doesn't get talked about enough.
Sure. Yeah, the coaches got to be able to trust each other. All right, so you had, I'm sure you know this story, I got a lot of guys that were under-recruited at Troy, none more so than Gunnar Watson, and you just don't get that, 6-year guys anymore, and how much he improved over time from one year to the next. I mean, he was outstanding last year. How do you get that message through to your players that, here in Lafayette and others, I'm sure it's all the same thing, work while you wait, when you actually had a great example of that. Kamani Vidal, the same thing. These guys were, under-recruited and really showed out. Kamani Vidal looks like he's going to the NFL, and I'm not sure that was going to be the case when he got recruited to Troy.
Sure. No, I think you're exactly right. I think there's several stories of that here in our program and many other across the country. And I think for us, it is a great way to sell the program to guys that are still developing or maybe not where they want to be just yet. Here is a great example of where you can get to if. And I've told the guys like over and over and over, and I know it sounds cliche, but it's just the facts of how we're going to live here. The truth lies in the work. Like anytime you get drifting, worried about outcomes and how are we going to follow these 2 successful seasons, or if I'm a player, how do I follow this player? It's just simple. Go to work, learn, teach, know, throw yourself into this program, get to know each other and let people serve you around you. And then we can raise our head up in December and see where we are. So that's really what we're trying to program our guys to do.
Someone talk about somebody who was under-recruited. Have you had the chance to meet the Mobile legend and all-time NCAA tackle leader, Carlton Marshall? And do you think he could have tackled you?
He could have tackled me. I did get the opportunity to meet him already once. I hope he comes back for our fish fry this spring and we get to hang out some. But just a tremendous human being and what a career he had.
All right, a few more minutes here with Gerad Parker, head coach of the Troy Trojans. Billy Napier, his first year with Louisiana, he was so concentrated on his team, right? He wasn't sure of the talent and what it would take to win. And then he found out and had a pretty good career here, winning the championship in his final year. How do you go about finding the level of competition? Because it's really good, right? Texas State just got the Sun Belt Player of the Year as their new quarterback after they had a little soap opera going on there. JMU seems like they'll be okay. The Cajuns are going to have an experienced quarterback. How do you go about scouting the other teams to figure out where your team is going to be?
Sure. I think the biggest thing is for now is exactly that. We have to worry about exactly where we are in our process here with the guys that are in the locker room, Dave. Then we go back to making sure we acquire what we can before summer hits, what's left. And then when it's time to, we've got to look out in front of ourselves and start to begin to think about what this will look like for our conference opponents and where we go. So it's kind of the 3 areas of it that we've got to attack. We've got to worry more about us for now, but certainly in the summer and as we roll in, it starts to put your stuff where we change the target a little bit.
Okay, let's take one more time out. We'll wrap up our conversation with the head football coach, Gerad Parker of the Troy Trojans, new head football coach. We'll talk about moving his family down from South Bend to Troy, Alabama, and we'll talk about what he plans on doing with those tight ends. He was a former tight ends coach with Notre Dame. You guys know I love throwing to the tight ends. Let me first tell you about Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports. From live games to highlights to in-depth analysis, Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick they can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all of the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all the latest in the world of sports. March Madness, NBA, Major League Baseball, and lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexis devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. I actually have it. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. All right, Dave Schultz wrapping things up with the new head football coach of the Troy Trojans, Gerad Parker, talks about moving his family down. We also discuss throwing it to the tight ends, and we throw our guy Barry McKnight a little bit of love. It is Gerad Parker, Troy Trojans head football coach on Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, I do want to ask you about the process, because this whole thing is got to be really fast. Like, we brought up Del McGee, and his whole life is changing instantaneously. You've had a little bit more time, but nonetheless, you said you got married really early. I'm guessing you have kids. I don't know that. So this is in December. You got hired fast after John Summerall got it, but then you're moving to Troy. Did the family come with you? Have you found a house? Are you still in the apartment? Are you in an extended stay hotel? How long does it take? Basically, the question is, how long does it take for your life to be settled so then you can concentrate on the football side of thing and your job? Because the other way, I presume your head is just spinning, and if one thing's not settled, then the other thing is tough to get settled, and that's going to take time.
It's hard. That's the toughest part. That, again, is and I appreciate you asking about it, because I think we all understand, hey, it's coaching, and sometimes you don't get a chance to realize this part is tough. We're blessed, but it is tough. And so for us, this past weekend, my family got to Troy finally. Okay. So we just ripped them out of school up in South Bend and brought them down to Troy and got them enrolled. They started their first days on Monday, and ready or not, here we go. So a lot on our children. We do have 4 beautiful kids. Wow. They're all going to Troy Elementary and already in school, and they've had 2 really good days. I'm hoping for a third at the end of this one. But we just got them here. So it's been that long, from December, I think, 22nd till now is right. what it took. Until then was a little bit of hotel stay, a little bit of some great friends here in Troy I'd already met to let us stay upstairs, and already developed some great friendships to figure it out in transition and to get them all here. So that was the time frame for us, and it certainly feels a lot better when you got the kids' feet hitting the floor and you hear them running around when you're in the house.
No doubt about it. But even that decision, I'm sure it was more than a 20-minute decision. When do we move them? Do we wait until the end of school? What do we, let's talk to the school here in Troy. What's best for the kids? Maybe they don't come down until the end of May or beginning of June. So I'm sure that was much more than a 20-minute conversation with your wife. And those are things that I'm not sure. I don't know why I think about it. I don't have a family, but that's got to weigh on your mind, just as much as, all right, who's going to be my offensive coordinator, if not more.
Amen. Oh, it absolutely does. It'll occupy so much of your time and thoughts and worries and concern. And then everything, you think about what you got to do with accounts and the business side of things, and buying, selling houses and all the paperwork involved there. There's all things that are not seen of to how to flip it. And then, oh, by the way, honey, make sure and take care of the kids for the next 3 months and have the house ready to sell. Right.
Yeah.
So
someone's going to get a spa day somewhere in Alabama.
There no doubt.
So I'll take the kids this weekend, honey. You can do what you need to do. Yeah,
exactly.
Probably going to happen. All right, a couple more questions for Gerad Parker. Something that I was really happy about, and we talked about it right before we started recording. For people who follow me, they know I love throwing to the tight end. The tight end is the biggest mismatch on the field. That opens up the running game. It opens up the passing game. It opens up everything. Coach Parker was a tight ends coach at Notre Dame. How much can the Troy Trojans fans expect to throw it to the tight end.
Well, I love your love of tight ends, I'll be honest, and I admire it. And if there is a place that taught me the beauty and the passion and the place where those mismatches and things that you just said happen, it was Notre Dame. And what better place to learn, and so glad that we got that chance to be around that group for 2 years. So I would tell you that we are definitely going to use that matchup. The tight end will have a vital role in our offense. Whether we play with 1, 2, or 3 of them, we're going to play that way, and can't wait to look for matchups for our guys that are special players in that room to do so. So you will see the tight end used in our offense.
All right, I couldn't go and interview the Troy Trojan coach. We brought up the legend Carlton Marshall. What are your thoughts of the voice, Barry McKnight? Because he's got the best voice in the Sun Belt.
Oh my goodness! I mean, I mean, his podcast we're doing to interview our new coaches. I mean, he is spot. It is ready for prime time. He has been fabulous, and you are right. The voice is on point. So he's been great. I've got a chance to visit with him a pretty good bit already, as well as our coaches, and we'll keep on using that as we go down the road because it's magical.
He's Gerad Parker, head coach of the Troy Trojans. Really appreciate your time, Coach. Best of luck with spring ball. We'll see you at Sunbelt Media Days, and hopefully we'll have you on, right when it's all gearing up in fall practice. And then you can tell me who the starting quarterback is going to be.
That sounds like a plan to me.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.